Good afternoon, dear Astana Finance Days attendees. My name is Olivier Gueris. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Astana International Exchange that I joined back in 2017. To open the afternoon, it's my pleasure to moderate this panel on Kazakhstan and MENA, Middle East and North Africa, unlocking regional investment and capital market growth. Before I get started, I want to extend our sincere thanks to our esteemed partners, Freedom Broker, Kaz Mineral, and ITS for their continued support to the development and the success of this forum. The MENA region has emerged as a dynamic hub for capital market innovation, IPO acceleration, and regulatory modernization. With Kazakhstan deepening integration with into this financial ecosystem, including AX participation in the Tabadul Digital Hub and active collaborations with exchanges like Tadawul, Qatar Stock Exchange, and Nasdaq Dubai, and Muscat Securities Exchange. The time is right to spotlight the strategic importance of MENA-Kazakhstan cooperation. The session is designed to unpack key developments in the MENA IPO landscape, highlight practical mechanisms for cross-border capital flows, and explore how institutional reforms build investor confidence across emerging markets. By bringing together top leaders from regional exchanges and financial institutions, we aim to foster actionable dialogue on shared opportunities, future alignment, and the role of capital markets in driving regional economic growth. To bring their wealth of expertise on this topic today, our panelists are Abdulla Nuaimi, Chief Executive Officer of Abu Dhabi Securities Exchange. Abdulla and I go back 15 years from my days in Qatar when both Abdulla and I were running operations for our respective exchanges. He's done much better since than I have, so congratulations to him. So AX is a proud member of the Tabadul Alliance pioneered by ADX. Moreover, I'm proud to announce today that our respective CSD, Abu Dhabi Securities Exchange CSD and AX CSD, have made a decision to establish a bilateral link between themselves. So this will, the strategic cooperation is designed to facilitate cross-border trading, enhance market connectivity, and broaden investment opportunities for both investors and issuers. Then we have Badr Al-Hinai, my CEO peer at Muscat Securities Exchange. MSX and AX are in the very final phase of interconnecting our exchanges via the Tabadul Hub. Hopefully we go live next month. We've already got one broker on each side ready to go live. Also with us today is Gordon Haskins, the CEO of Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank subsidiary in Kazakhstan. Gordon joined ADCB Kazakhstan back in 2016 as chairman of the management board and chief executive officer. He has more than 30 years of experience in the banking and legal sectors. Finally, we are welcoming Brian Steyerwalt, board member of AX regulator, AFSA, the Astana Financial Services Authority. Brian also served as chief executive of the Dubai Financial Services Authority, the FSA, and he currently holds the post of MENA Financial Services Regulatory Lead at Grant Thornton. All right, let's get started. Abdullah, salam alaikum, misal khayr. It's been an eventful period for ADX, from upgrading market infrastructure and listing MENA's first digital bond to a strong pipeline of IPOs, the latest earlier this year. With several companies announcing plans to go public, could you please share the latest development in ADX, your IPO outlook for the rest of 2025 and 2026 and beyond, and the instruments currently shaping investor priorities?
Thank you. First, I would like to thank you and thank the team here to give me this opportunity. This is the third time for me to visit Kazakhstan. The first time was in Astana with AIX. And I see during those 3 years really the huge developments happening in this area, especially in this area, in the financial services in Kazakhstan, and how the development and advancement in terms of the infrastructure, which is lead us what we did in ADX. In ADX, 4 years back, we thought to revamp everything, not only the infrastructure in terms of technology. No, we start with the legal framework. We reform the legal framework. We reform our technology. We reform the process to make it more accessible, more easy for the people to come to IDX, especially issuers or the investors. After we finish the first phase of revamping everything, and something very important, the integration of the ecosystem. Without the integration of the ecosystem, now the exchange is just a small part of the capital market, or a part of a capital market. Now we need to integrate a full capital market and the support entity around the capital market to facilitate the process in the capital market. We did that. The result in 2003 was really a phenomenal year for ADX in terms of the IPO. 2003, 2004, we reached number 10 in the world in terms of the IPO and the proceed. And we almost 50% of the proceed in the GCC, it's happened in ADX. In addition to that, provide other facility for our investor. An example, 16 ETF. This is new to the region, and the most active ETFs market now in the region is in ADX. And by the way, today we heard about quantum computing. Next week, the first quantum computing ETF will be listed in ADX, if you are interested. And the company there, he can present it. He knows the more information about it. This is what happened in ADX. Now, and by the way, something else. As a CEO of the exchange, I'm proud to see one of our listed companies sitting near me, ADCB. ADCB is a listed company in ADX, and it operates outside UAE. In the future, as I told you, now we already in next week we will have a company will be listed, direct listing in our market. We have quantum computing ETF. The IOB, we call it IOB because this is an innovation also in ADX. We innovate this new way to participate in ETF, similar to the IPO. We start next week. And we're expecting another company will be a dual listing with one of the big international exchange. And we're expecting like 2 or 3 major IPO next year, inshallah.
Thank you so much, Abdulla. Dear Badr, over to you now, please. So OQ Exploration and Production, OCAP, completed the largest IPO in Oman's history in October of last year, raising about $2 billion, and now represents about 11.6% of MSX market cap. How has this milestone transformed the IPO landscape in Oman, and what infrastructure or product innovations is MSX planning to unlock further opportunities for investors in the capital market, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Oliver, for having me here. This is my first panel, so if I'm nervous, please be easy with me. You are right that OQEB is the largest listed company in our market, but I mean, what's the story behind OQEB and how we prepare the market to have such a mega company in our exchange? So the story starts from 2022 when we draft MSX 5 years strategy plan. And during preparation for the MSX strategy plan, we identify the areas where we need to improve ourselves. We work closely with our partners. For that, we have like several meetings with OIA, Oman Servant Fund, and we agree it will be like a diversification plan for 5 years of 35 companies will be offered to the public. The priority will be for MSX. In 2023, we start with 2 companies, Upright Energy Services And it was a very successful IPO. And from each IPO, we learn lessons, how we improve ourselves, so that the next companies come, we will be ready, and we get the investor as well ready. So the story with Upright, we reach like 65 subscribers to this IPO. But I mean, the number could be higher. And to enhance that, we make it easy for investors to open the account. So we introduce an application where we make the investor journey much easier. So he can, through his broker, open and get the investor account so that he can participate in the IPOs, upcoming IPOs. As a result, in the second IPO, which is QGN, the number of subscribers increased to over 150,000 subscribers. Then OQEB came to the picture. There was like a challenge. Does the size of MSX can handle OQEB? And it was approved by the market. Yes, MSX can handle a large IPOs. And we continue with the fourth IPO and the fifth IPO at the beginning of this year with Asyad. A part of the agreement that we have with OIA is to introduce sectors that are not available in MSX. So we start with oil and gas sector. We move to logistic, and the story will continue next year, inshallah, with more sectors that are not yet represented in the exchange. Along with that, we have many initiatives just to support the momentum in the market and to increase the attractiveness of the market. And to have like a wider base of investors. So we conduct many of one-to-one meetings, many of workshops, many of roadshows, just to tell the story of MSX and invite more investors to come to the MSX. So this is basically the story behind OQEB.
Shukran Jazila Bader. Over to you now, Gordon. Thanks for being with us today. ADCB recently established its presence with us in Kazakhstan. I mean, the name changed, which sends a strong signal of your commitment to our region. Now, looking at debt capital markets, as opposed to equities, with both public and private debt markets thriving in Kazakhstan at the moment, how do you envision the role of Islamic banks as a catalyst in both areas, please?
Thanks, Olivier. Yeah, just as a bit of further background, as Olivier said, it's a new name, Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank here in Kazakhstan, but in fact, the bank has been here for 15 years now, coming on 16 years. Started as Al Halal Bank, became part of the ADCB group in 2019 with the combination that happened between ADCB and Union National Bank and Al Halal at that time. We remained as Al Halal for a number of years, but have seen the opportunities arising in this region, and that's very much what led to some of the changes we've undertaken within our group and the strategy change that we've implemented here in Kazakhstan and elsewhere in the Central Asia and Caucasus region. Previously, we were solely focused on Kazakhstan and have widened that out with the opportunities that we've seen. And in the panel session I attended just before lunch, it was very obvious why we are here and why we remain here, with significant clients from the Gulf region all being here talking about the opportunities that they're pursuing. So we certainly are following clients here to a degree, but we are also very much well established here in Kazakhstan. We're a purely Islamic bank in Kazakhstan, owing to the local rules here, unlike ADCB, our parent bank, which is a conventional bank with an Islamic window. Locally, we offer solely Islamic products, but I think we're actually at at an inflection point for the Islamic banking, Islamic finance market here in Kazakhstan and the region. There's, as I say, growing interest in the region. We see that growing appetite from our group for this region, and we see Islamic finance being a significant part of that. There's a lot of appetite, obviously, on a conventional basis. We've, as a group, grown the balance sheet exposure to this region from about $500 million in loan and Islamic finance assets a couple of years ago to today approximately $1.5 billion, and we expect to be upwards of $2 billion by the time the year ends. So we're growing the local balance sheet. Our group colleagues are growing the head office balance sheet, cross-border exposure, and there's more and more that we as a group are doing here with clients. Personally, I don't see Islamic finance itself being a massive catalyst, but it's very much a part of what is going on here. I don't think it's separately going to catalyze things. It's been a slightly difficult history in Kazakhstan for us as a bank because of the lack of liquidity and funding. That's picking up on a point that was mentioned in one of the earlier panel sessions. Liquidity is key, and the liquidity in the Islamic finance market has not been here in the region for some time. DBK did a Sukuk issue 12, 14 years ago. In fact, when I was at RBS Bank in those days, I was peripherally involved in that issuance from London, but that was the only one for a long time. More recently, ICD did an issuance for a private funding transaction, but there has not been a lot of liquidity in the market. That's all changing now. Eurasian Development Bank is working on setting up an Islamic window in their operations. We're seeing some rule changes coming from the local regulator here. We've been working with them to help introduce those changes. So I think we will see Islamic finance actually grow quite significantly now, probably at long last, after 15 years of history here. And we're working with others to further develop that. But I think it's an interesting point in time now, and I think we will see Islamic finance start to significantly grow here and across the region with other geographies in the region also being interested in developing their Islamic finance.
Thank you, Gordon. Good afternoon, Brian. Brian, you have extensive background, regulatory background at making markets better and safer in the GCC. Do you see GCC regulatory standards as a benchmark for AFSA to dig inspiration from? And in your opinion, how is AFSA working to harmonize regulatory standards between our region and other jurisdictions in the GCC?
Very good. Thank you, Olivier. And it's a real pleasure to be here today. And this opening ceremony this morning was fantastic. Wasn't in my background, but probably the strangest decision of my life, which worked out really well, was I left as a bank examiner from the U.S. In New York City and moved to Almaty, Kazakhstan in January 1996. And so I have seen this country develop and grow for a long period of time. And it's a real pleasure for me to be on the AFSA board and to be associated with the colleagues that we have at AFSA and the AIFC and watching this center grow. So there is a very strong connection between the AIFC and the GCC, and in particular the UAE. There's cross-border cooperation with regulators, there's cross-border cooperation with industry, and it is an appropriate benchmark, I believe, for the AIFC to use in terms of their growth. And when you pick a benchmark, you know, it's an interesting decision, you know, for any country, any financial center, because you have to pick a benchmark that, one, is working, I guess, but two, is similar to you. And so, you know, if you choose to benchmark yourself against the US, I mean, you've got 100 years of learning ahead of you. And probably the US would not design its regulatory system as it is now if they started today, right? So we have an opportunity right now here at AIFC to start from today. And that was the benefit, I think, of we saw in the UAE. When you're given a white sheet of paper, which regulators rarely are, and you're not given an active parliament on top of you, which regulators rarely have, you have a real chance to make a difference. And that's where, as a benchmark, you know, you have to think about a white sheet of paper and where you go. And so the cooperation between the two is absolutely critical, I think, to develop relationships and to build markets, build cross-border listings, and that only improves liquidity in the market and the ability to make a difference. And the one last point I would make in terms of overall development is that you really have to think bottom up when you're talking about markets, that you can't just build a market and assume people will come. You have to listen to the issuers. You have to listen to where the money's going to come from as an investor, and then design a market that matches both of their needs. And I think we're doing that here.
Thank you, Brian. Back to you, dear Abdulla. Tabadul is your brainchild, let's face it. It's been hugely successful at bringing together exchanges from the GCC and beyond. With the recent addition of Central Asian exchanges, actually you nicknamed it Tabadulistan. Yeah. So how's the ADX pioneering leadership in Tabadul enhance regional market connectivity? And what are the latest development and future plans to further expand Tabadul's role across MENA securities and beyond?
So Tabadul, let's say it is from dream to reality, because really who understand how the stock market operation works, and you start bring the idea of Tabadul, you said it's just a dream. It's very nice dream, but it's difficult to be implemented. Alhamdulillah, today 9 exchanges in Tabadul, and we see the volume, it's increasing daily, exponential increase in the volume between the exchange. But let's return back to the main idea of Tabadul. What the problem with the exchanges, especially mid and small exchanges? Accessibility. The accessibility. And everybody looking for liquidity, but nobody understands the liquidity. There is different definition of liquidity. But as an exchange, I'm not looking for the volume and value in terms of liquidity. I'm looking who make liquidity and who take the liquidity. If I don't think at the order book, okay, and see exactly who creating the liquidity in my order book and who take liquidity from my order book, then I will not have a liquidity, which people see as a volume and volume at the end of the day. Now, Tabadul serve that purpose at the exchange level to provide accessibility for the investor, not just a retail investor, even institutional investors, to create and take liquidity. This one element of Tabadul, and solve the issue of the back office operation. As an investor, I don't care about your clearing or settlement, but as an exchange, I need it. Now, as an investor, I can access the world currently. Why should I care about you or I care about the other exchange to access? I have all this problem. I need to log in to one interface, then I can trade any shares or stock or bond or ETF, whatever an instrument. We found there is a problem in our region, whole region. The accessibility is very difficult for the investor. Onboarding is very difficult also for the investors. And come the idea between 2 exchanges, Bahrain Stock Exchange and ADX, okay? Why we don't create a connectivity? solve all those issues, and make it very easy for investor to trade the stock in the exchange. And by the way, the competition is very high to our exchanges. Now, I'm not talking about crypto exchange or big exchange. I'm talking about MTF, an example. Okay, and MTF or ATS, it's very nice example how our future as an exchange, what will happen to us. Now, Tabadul provide that accessibility, create the visibility, easy accessibility. Then we extend the business of Tabadul to the primary market and the IPO. Then we said, okay, the main idea to provide liquidity, creating liquidity and taking liquidity, introduce a new thing as a market maker operation in Tabadul. And we are extending also the services of Tabadul. Not only we will not stop, we have another things also to introduce through Tabadul to provide a full services for the exchange and link those exchange. And instead of a small pool of water, we'll create an ocean by linking all those exchanges together. This is my aim and my dream, really.
No doubt you will achieve it.
Inshallah.
Thank you. But another question to you. The Sultanate of Oman has become a strong candidate for an upgrade from frontier to emerging markets with MSCI and FTSE. With that in mind, Oman's recent IPO are part of a broader privatization and capital market reform agenda under Vision 2040, I believe, supported by structural measures such as expanded margin trading, securities lending, carbon short selling. How are these reforms expected to elevate MSX from frontier to emerging market status? And what are the next stage institutional reforms that you have in mind to foster this process, please?
So as I said before, that MSX right now is a frontier market, and we want to become emerging market. For that, we work very closely with the FSA and other partners, to make MSX become EM market. Introducing such a market making, securities lending and borrowing, short selling, and other regulations, which will be very soon announced either by FSA or by MSX themselves. All this will, help or support the trading mechanism to become more and more. And the ones who are following the activity in MSX, he can see that the volumes are getting higher and higher. More participants involved in the trading. Market maker, not only a local market makers, but as well, and thanks to our partnership through Tabadul, we have a foreign market maker coming from Tabadul. They are participating on the trading avenues. More to that, in a month, we will introduce for AIM market, which is designed to support the listing of small and mid-cap companies and family companies, and to encourage them to be a part of a market. FSA announced last year incentive programs for them, which will cover three pathways. The first one is mainly to encourage companies to be a part of the main platform. Second one will be aimed for SMEs. We try to make it very commercial for them, so that it will encourage them to take the decision to be a part of MSX family. Once the announcement was out by FSA regarding the investment program, we have seen interest from many companies, and actually we conduct a number of meetings with them. By launching the AIM market, we already have like 3 companies ready to take the direct listing and be a part of AIM market. And this is how we are, trying to achieve the objective of upgrade the classification of market to emerging market.
Thank you, Badr. Well, actually, Abdulla and I, back in the days, we worked together on getting the upgrade from frontier to emerging markets for the UAE and Qatar. So,
Don't mention the date.
so we wish you all the best, and I'm sure you'll be successful in achieving this major thing. Gordon, back to you. May I get your thoughts on the following? Islamic finance is an area where EDCB has strong expertise. How can Kazakhstan draw on these practices to attract more diverse investors and broaden its capital market base?
Yeah, I think I've touched on a couple of these points already. Certainly, we've been here as a fully Islamic bank for 15 years, lots of experience in the Kazakhstan market. ADCB, our parent bank now, was in fact the first bank in the UAE to establish an Islamic window 25 years or so ago. They've got a large Islamic desk in the UAE, so there's a lot of expertise that we use on a regular basis there. And in fact, we've been working closely with the regulator here and the National Bank on introducing products, new rules, as I referred to earlier, that the regulator is working on to allow banks here, all banks here in Kazakhstan, to offer both conventional and Islamic products, which is a fundamental change from the way the system has worked for the way the regulatory system has worked here for the better part of 15 years. And that's where I think this real change is going to come here. And we've been lending our support wherever we can to the regulator. We've worked with them both here and in the UAE to give them a hand in understanding how our head office, for example, manages its Islamic window and how that structure actually works. They're introducing rules that will allow that. We're already talking to some of the other banks here in Kazakhstan about Islamic banking. We've agreed with one bank that we will lend some formal assistance on establishing an Islamic desk that they're looking to set up once the rules change next year. The legislation is working its way through. We've had some involvement with the EDB that I mentioned earlier that is in the process of setting up its own Islamic desk, Islamic window, and in fact they're close to providing some funding to one of the Islamic finance companies here in Kazakhstan. So, we're doing everything we can as part of our mandate here to both locally in Kazakhstan and elsewhere in the region to help foster that. And I think that then will start to create the platform where we'll start to see the greater liquidity coming in, as I referred to earlier. And we'll see investors coming in from the Gulf, as I referred to that session before lunch. It was very apparent that there is a lot of interest coming from the Gulf into the entire region here, and I think we'll start seeing more and more investors coming in on private and public transactions. We've done a number of, our head office has done a number of DCM transactions in Uzbekistan over the last few months, bringing a lot of appetite from the Gulf region. And I think we'll start seeing that also now in the Islamic finance space. As that critical mass further develops, as I referred to earlier, it's been a bit of a difficult struggle at times because it hasn't had the critical mass here in Kazakhstan. I think we really are at the point now where we're going to see that change, and I think we hope to be an important part of that.
Thanks so much. Brian, for our final word on this panel today, I'd like to pick your brains on whether, in your opinion, there's sufficient cooperation between AFSA and the GCC regulators, and what, in your opinion, could be done on top of that to further improve and facilitate cooperation and access between the markets.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And And really, when you start thinking about your regulatory infrastructure and the infrastructure that sits behind an exchange or a financial market, I mean, you have to have international standards first. That people have to have trust, which is, I mean, a thing the governor, I think, started with today, and the Museum of Trust is out and running now. But the first element you have to do is align yourself with international standards. And there's a lot of cooperation that has to happen on how is that done. There's more than one way to slice that pie. And that's where, when you pick benchmarks, we talked about earlier, that you pick a relevant benchmark that's a similar size, similar type of activities, and similar areas of development to move along with. So that's the first thing of cooperation, is how do you get to where you need to be on international standards. Secondly, I think there's a great way of sharing people, letting people from the exchange in Muscat, the exchange in Abu Dhabi, to come here and see how things are working and offer their advice and learn as well. It's a two-way exchange and vice versa. And I think that's a great way of building more ties with different markets and understanding where the other markets really stand. So that's what I would recommend going forward.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Gentlemen, thanks so much for your input. I'd like to remind the attendees today of the upcoming Tabadul Roadshow at 4 p.m. So everybody's welcome to attend it. And on those good words, I'll now close this panel. Thanks to the attendees for your attention and to our panelists for their contribution. Thank you.